day, I was thinking of thousands of excuses to not do it. I had my stomach turning, and I'm teaching 6 classes this semester, and I barely have time to do my laundry, much less anything other than that. So I was thinking about Oprah's advice of learning to say no, and I was trying to find a way to say no. But in addition, I also know that, like so many others, I've put a lot of effort into burying all those memories that hurt me so much, and that bringing them back up and opening up those old wounds is not something that I really wanted to do. However, this recent publicity and suicides of LGBT youth has made it necessary and really our responsibility to speak out, to discuss uncomfortable truths for those in our community that can no longer speak theirs. Bullies rob so many of their dignity and their spirit, and even their option to participate in life. This morning I watched with pain the online video of Fort Worth Councilman Joel Burns as he recounted his bullying experience. He became speechless and broke into tears as he related the story of his harassment that he endured for those perceiving him to be gay. I'm pleased to see the It Gets Better campaign that so many have contributed stories and messages to. This is important work and precisely what victims of bullying need to hear. Being bullied is like finding yourself in a long, dark tunnel with no end in sight, and oftentimes the only light is of hope is those around you that are brave enough to stand up for you. 4 years of high school or 4 years of college can seem like an eternity. For the bullied, there is no place to hide and no choice but to drop out of activities. Some drop out of school, and some, like the teens in the news recently, opt to drop out of life altogether. I was bombarded with sissy and faggot from ages 6 to 7 through elementary school and high school. This started happening long before I knew what these words meant or what it was about me that made me able to be labeled such. But as I got older in middle school and high school, I was subjected to worse treatment in one of the places that is usually a refuge for misfits and outcasts, the marching band. So I joined the marching band, and I played drums and percussion instruments in the marching band, but my older male tormentors played and marched along with me. I found myself a misfit even among the misfits. I was humiliated in front of other students, smashed, my fingers were smashed bloody with drumsticks. I was accosted in restrooms, and every bus trip to an away game was a nightmare. So when I did the right thing and complained about it, it only got worse. I'm sure it's true for others that have experienced this. The feelings of dread that I felt over the summer, knowing that I would have to go back to school, was terrible. I was wondering when the attacks would start and how bad they would be. These fears finally got the better of me, and I dropped out of band altogether. Of course, bullying doesn't necessarily stop when we graduate from high school. As the story of Chris Armstrong, the openly gay student president of University of Michigan, illustrates, bullies often come from within institutions of power, and universities are not always safe havens from them. Like many students, I assumed that when I left to enter college that I'd gotten a new lease on life. However, as a graduate student, my then partner and I were denied housing because we were a gay couple. A leasing company in Bowling Green, Ohio, refused to even let us fill out an application for an apartment. According to the owner of the company, we were not the kind of people that they wanted living in their building. That phone conversation still rings in my ear today, 6 years later. At that time, I was left literally speechless from what I was hearing. I couldn't believe what was happening. Being denied the opportunity to live in the building of my choice was something I had previously considered unthinkable until it happened to me. And this bully, she was not only the owner of a realty company, but was a local attorney in Bowling Green. She was confident that she had the full force of the law behind her in denying me housing based on my sexuality, because at the time she did have that power. Even after I found housing as a graduate student, coming home from dinner one night with friends, we were taunted from the rooftop by some drunken undergraduates that threw slurs at us and also unopened cans of beer. So I learned that duck and cover has broad applications in life. We can dwell on the power that bullies have or their ability to denigrate and humiliate us, but that only goes so far. I'm here today to tell my story only through the support of wonderful friends and allies that propped me up and also provided me with extra backbone when I needed it in the past. There aren't many lawn rangers in real life. We all need friends and allies to help us. So to all the allies that are here, You're doing important work by publicly and privately supporting members of the LGBT community. You're utilizing compassion and empathy, and these are precious gifts that we have as human beings. They allow us to imagine ourselves in someone else's shoes. They allow us to experience the pain of others and respond with kindness and compassion. This sets you apart from others who choose not to exercise their imagination in the service of others. J.K. Rowling, who's the author of the best-selling Harry Potter series, gave a commencement address at Harvard 2 years ago, and she touched on this very topic. She spoke about her work with Amnesty International and the aspects of that work that relied on human empathy. And she said, I'm quoting her now, "Many prefer not to exercise their imaginations at all. They choose to remain comfortably within the bounds of their own experience, never troubling to wonder how it would feel to be born other than they are. They can refuse to hear screams or to peer into cages. They can close their minds and hearts to any suffering that does not touch them personally. They can refuse to know." Friends and allies, when you speak up against homophobic jokes, when you stand up for the dignity of a child in our school system, you're exercising your imagination, your capacity for empathy, and setting a much-needed example for others, the willfully unimaginative, as J.K. Rowling puts it. But for those of us who've been bullied and those of us that are currently being bullied, what can we do? We can tell our stories. When I was denied housing in graduate school, I told as many professors, administrators, and community members that would listen what happened to me. And then they told their friends and so on. This November the 2nd, the city of Bowling Green, Ohio will vote on a non-discrimination ordinance that covers sexual orientation. If this passes, the law will no longer embolden those that would deny jobs and housing based on sexual orientation. My story was told at the city council meeting before the vote was taken to put the amendment up for a vote. Today, numerous unpaid volunteers from the community and from all over the country are converging on tiny Bowling Green to help this ordinance pass. In schools, where teachers and administrators prove unable to deal with issues of sexual bullying, we must attempt to educate them and hold them accountable. Sometimes even well-meaning teachers and administrators won't address this issue, and I went through this as a high school student. And where school board members refuse to protect the safety and dignity of all students, we need to vote them out.
Amen.
We've got an election on November 2nd where we can choose new school board members, some of which have made outreaches to the LGBT community and the LGBT parents, and they need to be put on the school board.
Yes.
So educate yourself about the position of these candidates for school board. It's important to have the support on that level. Going forward, we must do the difficult work of imagining new and more aggressive ways to address this issue, and we must elect and support those that are willing to do the same. If for no other reason, because so many LGBT youth can't imagine themselves alive in the environment that we're living in today. As a member of the gay community, I can say that our civil rights have too long been the subject of referendums, propositions, don't ask, don't tell policies. We have to start telling the truth that homophobic policies, homophobic politicians, homophobic teachers, homophobic pastors and clergy, homophobic parents enable and embolden bullies in their work. We must implicate them. We must implicate them in fostering the toxic environment where gay and questioning kids see no other recourse than to kill themselves. My wish for all of us today is that we have the courage and the audacity to live in our full personhood, assert it. This may mean standing up to parents and teachers, pastors and employers, politicians and coworkers. It might also mean exercising your right to vote and asking others how they'll vote, educating them on their votes. This means speaking up when it's difficult and painful to do so. But you must find your voice. My hope is that the interest and energy that's on display this afternoon won't dissipate, and that we'll go out into our campus community and Wilmington and insist on permanent changes going forward in dealing with bullies and bullying. And remember that our anger is righteous anger today and this afternoon. We remember that lives depend on what we do going forward. Thank you.